Hey guys, welcome back to Road of Abundance. Today we have one of my good friend, Nimai, professional vegan bodybuilder. Thanks for being with us, bro.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to have you. We're actually in my place, which
Yeah.
is cool. So thanks for coming over to my place, making this easy.
Guys, he's super busy, so I decided to come to his spot. We have the camera rolling, so I wanted to introduce you to someone that has been first. He's in amazing shape. He did competition. He's very successful entrepreneur, and he's been vegan for all your life. I think you never ate meat.
So I've never eaten meat. I was raised vegetarian, and then I went vegan 7 years ago. Almost this month, 7 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Guys, I tried vegan and not 100% vegan, like not super hardcore for 8 months. Like I was still eating some honey and stuff like that, but no dairy for sure. And now I went back to a little bit of meat. I do like 90% plant-based, 80% plant-based and meat. But I'm super interested because your shape is amazing and you're living the life. So tell me, like your upcoming and what made you through all that journey.
Yeah, wow. It actually starts with my parents because you don't hear too many people growing up not eating meat.
Yeah,
It's
for
like
sure.
people always ask me, how is that possible? So both of my parents were originally from Argentina. So they were born and raised in South America, and Argentina is absolutely known for their steak, their beef.
Yeah.
That's like one of the staples of their culture. And they actually converted to Hinduism in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
They had been introduced to the philosophy through food. Actually, my mom had given up meat. She became a vegetarian at the age of 15 because she saw her boyfriend at the time slaughter a pig, and she was absolutely traumatized from it. So she said, never again do I want to eat meat. And she was introduced to this community that was actually giving out food, and it was vegetarian food. And they would also do lectures on some of the spiritual texts, which is the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very
Hindu text.
Yeah, it's like a popular Hindu text that people like to use as an instruction manual for how to live your life at the highest spiritual path.
And in this text, they tell you not to eat meat.
So one of the core philosophies of Hinduism is a concept called ahimsa. So this is what I have tattooed on my arm.
Oh, okay.
So this translates a Sanskrit word that translates to nonviolence or compassion. So not just compassion and nonviolence towards other humans, but to all other life, whether it is an animal, a human, through your thoughts, deeds, and actions. So you basically try to do as little harm as possible and cause as little suffering as possible. So that also means it translates to what you eat. So if an animal ends up on your plate, then that animal had to be killed at some point, which is a form of violence. So it's more of a spiritual practice to not consume those things, to keep your vessel and your spirit pure and clean and free of any of those types of energies that might have repercussions. Be almost polluted with like fear or anxiety.
They are for sure, yeah.
And also to keep yourself free of that karma. So that coming back to you. So any type of violence or misfortune coming back to yourself. So they adopted this lifestyle and moved from a temple in Buenos Aires, Argentina, to a temple in Mississippi, which is in the South. You said you're moving to Miami.
Yeah.
It's in Mississippi, just a couple states over. So just a couple states over. And I grew up on this farm community where there was a temple. It was a spiritual community. And I was just, that belief system was really embedded into the fabric of who I am. And my entire childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, I just never had the desire to eat meat.
If you didn't eat ever, you don't crave it, like sugar or other stuff. The more you do it, the more you crave it.
Exactly. And I always understood that people would say that it tastes good and it was part of the culture. Like everybody in the South like hunts, fishes, and barbecues, and I didn't do any of that stuff. So it was hard to relate to a lot of my peers. Yeah. And but I just never felt the desire to actually consume it because that philosophy of being raised on a farm and having such strong connections to cows and to pigs and to animals, I was just like, if it's unnecessary, I don't need it and I don't want to contribute to it.
Yeah.
So I left Mississippi to go to college. I went to go get my engineering degree. So I studied mechanical engineering and then finished that and accepted a job in California as an engineer. And that is when I started almost like my own spiritual journey because
at what age? Like
23.
Okay.
Yeah, 23.
How old are you now, so they know?
32. 32. Yeah, I had to remember for a second.
So 23, you started the kind of spiritual journey.
Yeah, because I was born in it. I was born into that. It was a very spiritually rich foundation of my family and the culture that I was raised in. But I never it was inherited. It was never my choice. So I kind of distanced myself from it through college and in high school. And then finally when I moved to California, I felt like this calling to explore my spirituality and look for things on my own and not with the pressure of my parents or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's when in that discovery, I came across a video of the dairy industry. So what happens on dairy farms. Yeah. And until that point, I was vegetarian. And I was still eating milk and cheese and whey protein and cottage cheese and Greek yogurt. And I never thought that there was any kind of harm being done. I was like, the cows aren't being killed. They're just being milked. And then I got a firsthand look of what happens in those facilities. Yeah. And I just thought to myself, I don't want to contribute to it. It's really cruel and inhumane. So even the cows have to be pregnant in order to produce milk. Yeah. And they only get pregnant by artificial insemination. So they impregnate the cows forcefully.
They're mistreated.
They're born
blood in the milk.
Yeah, they're fed biotics, hormones, so that they grow as quickly as possible. And then the male cows, they have no purpose in the dairy industry. So they're immediately sold to slaughter to either the beef or the veal industry, which is baby calf. And then the female cows are essentially met with the same fate as their mother. They're just bred into captivity and then sucked dry. And then once they no longer produce milk, then they're sent to slaughter. So I was like,
crazy.
Okay, I don't want to contribute to this anymore. So I'm no longer going to eat any kind of dairy products. And then at that time I was lifting pretty heavily. Like I was just started really into my fitness career. And I had to figure out how to eat without whey protein, without cheese. As a vegetarian, that's like my main source of protein at the time. So I gave it up and then figured out how to eat plants and then went vegan and then started bodybuilding right after that.
That's crazy. And damn, personally, I consume mostly bison when I consume, or a little bit of fish. But bison is federally protected, so that I don't know how corrupt it is. Well, I'm not gonna say it's a perfect industry, but when I went back to meat, because they're protected, I was like, it's better than just how they slaughter everything else because they can't feed them GMO and stuff. There's a lot for it. It was hard for me. The vegan part was hard for me because I was turning into quick accessible food, which a lot of them has a lot of chemical. It's if you're not going to do the real raw vegan diet, if you're not going to put time and effort, at the end of the day, you put almost more chemical and more all those impossible stuff, all that. It's very bad. It's another marketing for them. So
yeah,
how you do it? What would be your best tip for people that want to try it?
Yeah, I mean, I look at those foods as transitionary foods. So for people that are used to eating a certain way, whether it's chicken and hamburgers and tacos and all those things, those products are a good temporary solution to not having to change much and just replace them for like. Yeah. I would still argue that they are healthier than some of the other animal products,
corn fed and stuff.
Yeah, just because, like I said, or from zooming out from just purely a physical standpoint, like I mentioned, my reasons for being vegan are always spiritual.
Same as me. That's why I transitioned back, and it's cleaning your energy and stuff.
Yeah. So for me, regardless of whether if it's a bison or if it's a wild fish or anything, I just choose not to contribute to it in any way. But for those people that aren't raised like me, which is a majority of people, it's a good way to transition to a plant-based diet and then use that time to explore new recipes, to maybe wean yourself off of those products and start exploring more, introducing more plants, more beans, more lentils, more tofu and tempeh, and some of these more alternative protein sources that people aren't too familiar with, because most people look at their plate and they go, okay, here's my chicken, this is my protein. Here's my rice, this is my carbs. Here's my avocado, this is my fats. But when you're plant-based, you have to look at your entire plate, whether it's rice and lentils and veggies and sprouts, and you're like, okay, there's protein in all of this, not just this one ingredient.
Yeah, for sure.
And that, forces you to become flexible and diversify the types of foods that you're eating. So my number one tip for people is to take the time that you need in order to make it a sustainable process. If you go vegan or plant-based overnight, sometimes it can feel very overwhelming and people don't have the resources or the knowledge to do so, and you'll just give up. But if you take the time and maybe slowly eliminate some products from your diet and replace them with more plants, you explore, you take the time that you need in order to make it a lifestyle, not a diet. A diet has a start and an end. But when it's a lifestyle, it just becomes part of who you are.
Yeah, being committed to it. And as I said, like the best tip that I would give, like just like Nimai, is going 70%, then 80%, then 90%, and slowly eliminating it from a diet. Personally, I had to go back to meat just because of my leaky gut. I needed to fix it, and everything that's beets, lentils, sprout, and all the nightshades of tomato, everything, I was like reacting to it. So I had to clean my whole diet, went back to basic, and now my gut is mostly healed. So I can start, like, I went back to integrating more of that stuff. What would be your top 3 protein for vegan diet?
For vegans? So, I mean, I just want to say that if you're an athlete, you definitely want to use a supplement. Like, you can get all of your protein from a plant-based diet, but if you're somebody like me or you that trains 5-6 times a week, we really care about putting on muscle, you want to get about like as much as you can without exceeding too much. So having the right amount of protein. So a supplement can be very useful for that. It's convenient. You can get 25 grams per scoop. Doesn't have a whole ton of extra calories. If you were to compare 25 grams of protein from a scoop of protein versus 25 grams from beans, it's a lot of beans.
It's a lot of carbs.
Yeah, and it's a lot of carbs too. So understanding that supplements are not necessary, but they are convenient, especially if you're trying to hit high numbers of protein.
Yeah.
Apart from a protein shake, definitely tofu and tempeh, which are derived from soy products, which I know a lot of people have fear around soy products because they're GMO or because people believe that soy contains estrogen, which then affects your hormone levels, which has been proven the opposite. It actually is beneficial for your hormones because soybeans contain something called phytoestrogens, which are essentially the plant forms of estrogen. So we have mammalian estrogen in our systems and plants have phytoestrogens.
Okay.
So they are similar in structure and they can actually attach themselves to our estrogen receptor sites, but they block real dietary estrogen from affecting us. So it can actually have a preventative effect of affecting our hormones. So it protects from things like prostate cancer or breast cancer or testicular cancer, which are highly affected by estrogen, which is commonly found in foods like dairy products, because that's coming from a milk of a cow, which has a high amount of estrogen.
Very, very high hormones,
Yeah, so...
And I mean, you've been eating tofu and tempeh for years and you're still good.
Yeah, I've been eating it my whole life, and I'll always say, like, unless you're allergic to soy, there's no need to avoid it, or unless it just upsets your stomach or something like that. You don't have to be afraid of soy, and even most of the soy that's produced is GMO, but it is fed to livestock. So 80% of the soy that is produced in the world is fed to livestock, which is then fed to humans.
Yeah.
So you're still consuming third party.
Like when you eat an animal that eat corn and you're like, it's still GMO and stuff like that.
You just get it secondhand. So only about 6% of the soy grown in the world is consumed by humans.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. So protein, tofu and tempeh are my top 2. And then I would say lentils, beans, legumes, edamame, kidney beans, black beans, pinto beans, whatever type you like. Mm-hmm. And those are going to be the best.
Do you put them in water for 24 hours and stuff like that? Like, I don't remember the word to...
Soak them?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're getting raw beans, you definitely want to soak them to make sure that you can digest them and absorb them.
And the lentil, you need to sprout them or something like that.
You can. So sprouting is actually a really great way to increase the amount of protein. So you can take dry, raw lentils, and there's a sprouting process. It doesn't take much. It's like you can just use a glass jar and like a piece of fabric, and then they just grow these sprouts. And the nutritional content of sprouts is actually like way more than regular. So it's like having a multivitamin in sprout form, and the protein on sprouts is much higher than a regular lentil. So I definitely include sprouts into my diet too, because it's just like sprinkling protein onto your food,
exactly. That's the best.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so 23, you start your kind of spiritual journey. You always been a clean eater. You did bodybuilding and stuff. So now I know that you have a routine, a morning routine and stuff like that. You're very spiritual, similar as I do. So tell me, what's your morning routine that makes you so successful and that start your day on the right track?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of routines and building habits that help me reach my goal. And I think that waking up early for me is number one on that routine.
What's early?
5:30. I've been waking up at 5. I've been waking up at 5:30 since college, because I always worked at 7 a.m. in college, and I had to wake up early. I would cook for myself, and then I'd go to work.
Yeah.
And then when I started work as an engineer, I also had to be at work at 6:30, and I drove like 45 minutes to work, so I got up even earlier. And so that just stuck with me. And I feel like waking up early before the sun, before people are calling you, before you have to answer your emails, like you can really just dedicate time and be selfish. Like just focus on you, whatever that looks like.
What time you go to bed?
Normally around like 9 to 11. So somewhere around there. But yeah, focusing on yourself in the morning and just giving yourself that time, whatever that looks like. For me, it looks like waking up and then drinking a tall glass of water, making a cup of coffee or cacao or whatever warm drink or tea, something like that. And then I'll do some meditation. So normally like 20 minutes minimum.
Guided, or like you just breathe and you focus on your thoughts? Not your thoughts, but your empty thoughts.
Both. So I really like mindfulness meditation, which is just being very present of all of your senses. So trying to just notice what the cushion that you're sitting on feels like, what the pressure on your butt feels like, what sounds are coming up, what sensations are happening in your body, and just noticing them without judgment, just seeing what comes up, seeing what feelings and thoughts come up, because oftentimes we're so distracted. Like we go from one distraction to the next. Like we wake up, immediately look at our phone, right? We put down our phone, then we immediately grab food, right? And then after the food, we immediately answer emails or start going to work.
Yeah,
like everything is constantly pulling us away from what's happening in our internal world. So I think just having stillness and giving yourself that time to just see maybe what's coming up and what's bothering you or what's feels good, and then that'll give you some clarity on how to make decisions like in outside of that, like in life, right? So waking up early, meditating. I do journal as well. I find that journaling has helped me. That's only something that I've implemented in the past year.
Gratitude journal?
Gratitude, yeah. Start off every morning with gratitude. Because again, when you're in a state of gratitude, you cannot be in a place of lack. Like you're really appreciating everything that you have right now.
So what do you write in it? Like
first, my health, always. I say I'm grateful that I woke up healthy and alive to experience another day on this earth. I'm grateful for my friends and family, for their health. I'm grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful for the access to just the basic things in life, like water, shelter.
But is it the same? It's similar every day what you write?
Similar,
it's just reinforcing it.
Reinforcing those, and then I'll get more into maybe something that happened yesterday. Like I'll say, like I'm really grateful to have a partner like Bianca that accepts me and all my mistakes and flaws that I have. So it just kind of, like I get appreciation for her. And then after that, after just like writing some thoughts, some grateful thoughts, then I'll just get into writing whatever's on my mind. I call it like free flow, or just like a brain dump. So without judgment, just write whatever is coming up for me without thinking if somebody else is going to read it. You know what I mean? Like without judging myself for writing what I'm thinking, because once you see it on paper and you read it back to yourself, you're like, wow, I've been upset about something for a week now, you know? And like how like you read between the lines.
You read it at night or when? Before?
I'll just read it after I write it.
Oh, you write it?
Yeah.
Like you just don't think, you put it on paper and then you go through it and you're like, oh, okay, this has been coming up, so let's release it.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, I run a few businesses, so most of my business partners live either in the UK or on the East Coast in New York. So I start my morning calls like at 7:00.
So you have a supplement business, you have a coaching business, like fitness coaching. You have, what other businesses do you have?
I do social media as well. I do a podcast. So a lot of content creation. And then I travel, I do public speaking. So I'll go to different events in different parts of the world and just talk about the benefits of a plant-based diet. I do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Different source of income, guys, very important.
Yeah.
So if you're successful, at the beginning, I would suggest focusing on one thing that you're going to master. So let's say for me and probably for you is like getting content, getting followers, getting yourself out there. Then I think you went probably with the coaching, and then you developed the supplement when the coaching was good. Yeah. So it's like building structures. And once the foundations are good, you can start adding different source of income.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everybody should have a side hustle.
Yeah,
like regardless of what industry you're working in, if it's something that you love to do or something that you're doing as a means to an end, so something that just pays the bills, I think that everybody should explore having something that they're really passionate about, and not necessarily get into that with the intent of monetizing it, but just understanding that if you really like something and you're passionate about it, you will inevitably become very good at it. And if you're very good at anything, you can help somebody else. You can monetize it in some way that, again, it doesn't have to be your main thing, but it can bring you a lot of fulfillment by doing something that you actually love. And I'll tell you that making money doing something that you like to do is way better than doing something that you don't like to do.
You want to go back to engineering?
Never. Actually, so today it's so funny. I was answering questions on my Instagram, and I told this story about when I quit engineering. Somebody asked me if I was afraid, and I said, yeah, I battled with it for 5 years. You know, I think any reasonable person would.
You went to school, you had desperate.
Yeah, I went to school for 5 years to become an engineer. I've racked up like $60,000 worth of debt, and then I had signed a contract as well that said, if I quit or got fired before a certain amount of time, that I have to pay back any bonus that I made in that time frame. So I had to pay like $10,000 to quit my job. So I had to pay to quit my job. And whenever I went to quit, they offered me a raise and they offered me a promotion. So it was like they were trying to keep me like shackled in these golden handcuffs.
It's like life testing you guys. Like when you're on the right track to your path, life is gonna put, same thing with a girl, she's gonna have 4 on 5 things you're looking for that you're not ready to settle. And life is just gonna give you that little thing. Same thing with the work. Now giving you more money, more stuff, and then you sure, Nimai, you want this? You sure you want to go and quit the job? And then if you say yes and you do that leap of faith and you let life bring what it has in reserve for you, because don't forget, you choose this life before. So we're not going to get into detail, but just trust it and do the leap of faith. And it's not because it doesn't work right away that it's not going to work. And if you like it and you love what you do, you're going to be like, keep doing it. You're going to be consistent. Yeah. And that's the key. Same thing with I don't like calling it diet or nutrition, because for me, it's a lifestyle. Like you said, like, I don't feel like I'm missing on anything when I don't eat all that sugar or all that stuff. And people, it's because, it's the problem with people when they talk, often they don't realize they're going to be like, oh, I'm addicted to sugar. But me, I love sugar. But me, I love chocolate. I can't live without ice cream. So you're actually programming your brain. Yeah. Once you say that, oh, I don't eat dairy. Officially, if it's on the table, you're not eating it because you don't eat dairy. Like if you like, I love dairy, and every day you put it in your brain, you won't be able to resist because it's a subconscious programming. Yeah.
I think what you just said is absolutely right. The language that we use, especially whenever we describe ourselves, it literally shapes the world around us, and it shapes how we act because we act in alignment with what we say and what we think. So if you're trying to make a change and you let's say you want to be a somebody who is in great shape, right? When you say like, oh, I go to the gym, I work out, like that's just actions. Like you're just saying what you do. But if you identify with it and you say, no, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a weightlifter, so I act and I identify with being that type of person, so I'm going to act in a way like a bodybuilder would, or apply that to whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
But I think that understanding the language that we use is so powerful, because it does program you. And our beliefs are literally what dictate how we act and how we see the world.
Yeah.
And a belief is different for everybody, because what's true for you is different than what's true for me.
Yeah, and it rules your life. Same thing with the nutrition. Me and Nimai, when we eat, I'll say us, because even if I didn't talk to him, I'm sure he thinks the same way. When he puts food in his body, guys, he knows he's going to be shredded. No matter what he eat, he has this mentality that my body's going to be shredded. I'm going to be in the best condition of my life, and it's good for me to fuel with that food. A lot of people will be like, you heard it before, like, oh, when I eat, I gain 5-10 pounds. For me, it's super easy to gain weight. Oh, trust me. You're going to gain a lot of weight, and super easy.
That.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I used to think also like, oh, when I don't train for a while, I lose a lot of muscle, like fast. Now I don't tell that to myself. And I went for 1 month traveling. I didn't train to a proper gym. I did 2 home workouts and that's it. Came back and I was 3 pounds heavier because my body had rest. I've been training for years. I don't suggest everybody does that, but for me, it's a break. My muscle recover, and then I can hit it harder when I come back. And if you tell your body what it is, it's going to become what it is, like what you say it is. So I'm sure when you eat the food, you're grateful for it. You're like, this is going to fuel me, and I'm going to be shredded anyway.
You're exactly. I coach. I mean, you coach people too in fitness, and that's one of the big roadblocks that people have is the belief in themselves, and unrecognizing that they have these disempowering beliefs about themselves. It's unintentional. They're not doing it on purpose. But because they believe it so much, it's what actually happens. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to eat this food and I'm getting healthier with every meal that I eat, I'm getting in better shape, my body is only absorbing the most nutritious calories that it can and letting go of anything that doesn't serve it, your body will start to believe it over time.
Yeah, and it takes time. It takes time.
It takes time, but eventually
you have to program.
Exactly. But once the program's in and you update your software, then everything else runs differently. And being in shape is a symptom of those beliefs. Yeah, it's just a byproduct, and it becomes not effortless.
It's your lifestyle,
but it just becomes who you are.
Yeah, exactly. There was a study Joe Dispenza was telling in one of his videos, like. And there's multiple studies like that, but there was some people actually curling the weight for 1 month, and some people just thinking for 30 minutes to an hour every day, same thing. And they had the same growth depending on the research, or sometimes like the actual curl was 30% gain in strength and size, and the one thinking it was 20-something%. And the only reason why I think it was a difference, because when you're doing it, you're actually thinking while you're doing it. And the other one, it probably takes practice to mentally curl. So I'm sure if they would extend the study, it would have become like similar.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Because internally, I mean, your outside world is interpreted by your brain. Yeah. Right? So you don't have to necessarily, like, you can imagine something happening and produce the same experience internally. This is what happens with like trauma, right? Is like we think something we're in danger in some way, so our body produces all of these neurochemicals that produce fear and adrenaline, and it releases into our bloodstream, and it has an effect on our physical body.
And your brain doesn't do the difference. Same thing, like let's say Nimai is like, he sees something, he thinks Bianca is cheating on him, his body gonna go into that phase, like everything's gonna react, the hormones gonna change. It might not be true, but the body doesn't know. And then when she arrives, she's like, oh no, this is nothing. And then, wow, all that, every day you put your life in those situations, and your brain doesn't do the difference. He might be crying because he thinks she cheated or stuff like that, which never happened, but the body went through the whole process like it did. And then you're like, wow, this was... And then you can relive it again. That's why, same thing for when I went to skydiving, I was with a girl, and I was like, don't stress before the event, because you don't know how you're gonna react once you jump. Like, and if you stress before, you're stressing right before you jump, and while you jump, like just go.
Just experience it.
And she loved it.
Yeah. Essentially, you're projecting what happened in the past into the present moment, which takes you away from being present.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like and what you said earlier about constantly reliving old experiences. Many of us live in that that
That's
state
fear,
of anxiety.
the depression state, like
Depression.
from the past.
Yeah. So depression is focusing on the past,
Mhm.
and then anxiety is fear of
focusing
the
on
future.
Yeah.
Right. So both of them are taking you away from the present moment, which
Totally.
is where all of life happens.
And
is
there's
right
no
now.
space to create, guys. If you're stuck in the past or
Mhm.
like stuck in the future, you can't give life any possibility to bring you anything and surprise you. You're already using all your energy to create from the past or the future that you think is gonna happen.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a great point. I love that because the all of the surprises, all of the possibilities, all of the wonder in the world happens beyond what you know, right? So if you have expectations for things, which I guess it can be fine to set goals for things, but once you have like a certain expectation, then you're only going to ever meet or not meet that expectation. But if you go into something, whether it's a relationship or an opportunity with a completely detached from any expectation, you now are open to whatever happens, and that could be well beyond what your best expectation could have been. So now it could be something even greater than what you ever expected.
How many times do we hear like people are like, oh, I wasn't looking for a relationship, and bang, the person of my dream came. Because you let go. You stopped searching for that person. You mind your business. You became the person you're supposed to be, and wow, boom, you attracted the perfect person you were looking for the last 3-4 years without looking. Like, how crazy is life? And how Nimai was saying, guys, it's like, let's say I want to make $1 million. That's often a goal that people have. I want to make $1 million, but then let life surprise you. Start working towards that goal. Don't ask when and how. Just put the work to become the person. So like Nimai said previously, let's say you want to be an influencer. Put the work to be an influencer so your brain understand that you're becoming that version of yourself in the future. Be grateful for it and see miracle happen.
Yeah. One of my mantras that I'm really using every day is fully committed, totally unattached. So if you are attached to the outcome, then you're always going to be at the mercy of the outcome and how you feel about what you're doing. But if you're expectation, but if you're just fully committed to the process, whatever that process is, whatever that goal is for you, the outcome is an inevitability. It doesn't matter how or when, like it's gonna happen if you just stay committed to the process itself. So,
and life will test you. Trust me.
No, it's always gonna test you. But that's why building these habits and routines and all of these things that facilitate that vision is key. Because if you are only doing something whenever it's good, then the moment something goes wrong, your motivation, you're gonna want to quit. So it's like that's conditional. But if you're just fully committed to the process, then whatever happens, because life is always going to be like this. It's always going to have.
You really want it?
It's going to have ebbs and flows. So are you going to keep working when things are going bad, or are you just going to give up and say, "Nah, it wasn't for me. It got too hard."
Yeah, I like that. So we're talking about habits and all that stuff. I know you meditate, you read. I want to hear your favorite book. You can give me top 2 or 3 if there's too many.
Okay, so you'll like this one. I know that you read it too because I've seen you. So The Untethered Soul. It's a really, really great book by Michael Singer. If you're looking to get into spirituality and you don't necessarily have a starting point, I think that's a great starting point for anybody that's looking to go down that path. Man, let's see. It's so hard to pick books. Let me just look here. This one actually.
The Way of a Superior Man?
Yeah. That's the one I was pointing
so
at.
good, baby.
So The Way of the Superior Man is a fantastic book.
Do you want to be an alpha?
Especially men, because men we're raised in a patriarchal society.
Very egotistic.
Yes, egotistical, dominating. It's imbalanced right now, and it's a symptom of this hurt masculine energy that exists in our society. And understanding The Way of the Superior Man and reading that will give you a whole different perspective on what it means to be a man, what it means to be a fully embodied man, to be in touch with your emotions, to be a protector and not somebody to understand women and what they need and what they want from a man, which is security and not necessarily controlling, to understand how to listen to them and what they're really saying. And it's helped me tremendously in my relationship, and I feel like it could help anybody out there too. So that's 2 books. And then Let's see, another one.
You get one more pick. There's a lot of book, guys.
Yeah, I also listen to a lot of books. So let's go with, what's another really great one? I actually really like Think Like a Monk from Jay Shetty.
I see Relentless.
Yeah. Think Like a Monk.
Think Like a Monk.
Yeah,
I didn't read
Shetty.
it, but I have it at home, so I'm gonna read it.
It's a really good, easy, digestible, practical book. So
yeah, and women can read The Way of Superior Man. Why? I had a female friend reading it, and they told me that it just showed them the perspective of a man. Because I even have the book for women, because there's The Way of Superior Man, and I think I don't remember the title, but I bought 4 of his book after I read this, because I was like, this guy is really good.
Yeah,
like
David Data.
Yeah, so I bought the female version of it, and I'm actually gonna read it to understand what you women, how your brain thinks, and being in your shoes. Which that's why you should read it, to see why, guys, we don't understand things, like when you do things and we're like, what? Like, okay, you stop that right now, and then you're like, no, that's not what I want, just give me a kiss and hug me. And I'm like, and us men, we're super logical, practical. So when you girls are very emotional, because you are, even if you deny it, you are emotional, like a roller coaster, like you call it, the ocean, like waves and stuff. And us, we're like a boat, so we're like getting waved left and right, and we don't understand what's going on. So it's very interesting, and the scale of masculinity was something really good for me, because I don't know, because you were in a relationship for a while with Bianca, but me being an alpha on a 10 scale, every time I was clicking with women, I was like, I'm not sexually attracted, because they were like on the scale, let's say a 5, which is more masculine energy, which you vibrate nice friendship, but you don't have the sexual attraction. And I was like, why does the girl I want to marry, I don't want to have sex with them? And why does the girl I want to have sex with them? There's so like, let me find the proper way to say this. They're not at the same place as me in my journey. Like, I don't know if you have a better way in English of saying it, because I know you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. So it's true what they say, like opposites attract. It's more so of a balance. Yeah. Right. So if you're hyper masculine, most of the time, it is masculine, feminine. It applies to men and women, regardless of gender. There's a balancing effect to where a hyper masculine male will be most attracted to a hyper feminine energy. I don't want to say male, female, but just hyper masculine to hyper feminine. Those balance each other out. And
sometimes, like when I was 24, a lot of ego. I'm a Leo. I was like all over the place, super fire.
Are you Leo?
Yeah.
Bianca's a Leo too. So Leos and Cancers are actually really good
water and fire.
Partners. They balance each other out. They're friends.
Yeah. So that's like the girl, if she's not mature in her emotion and stuff, that's where it's gonna be so hard for you to be in relationship. Both person has to be mature and understand, like you said, masculinity and femininity, and I think that's what society is missing. So that's why I love having like person like you on my podcast, because it's another way of sharing it. It's like, understand that he looks like a man, super in shape, has a good lifestyle, but you understand that there's a feminine part to him, and he embrace it. It's okay to have emotion. Fuck that you're a man, you're not crying and all that stuff. That's why we have so much problem in our society with men, and they're so toxic. So it's a really good book, and one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, and I'll also jump in here too, because there's another book that I'm reading right now called How to Get the Love You Want, and it talks about this concept called imago, which it's the Greek word for image, or the Latin word for image. And it explains why we are attracted to certain people romantically. And essentially, it says that our imago, which you can imagine just as an image, it's a compository image of your primary caretakers. So your mom or your dad, whoever raised you, their good qualities and their negative qualities. And then it's also a part of yourself that you've denied, what they call the lost self. So if you are somebody that is very closed off emotionally, then it makes sense that you would be attracted to somebody that's very emotionally open and in touch with their emotions, because you desire to have that characteristic. You desire to kind of have that quality. And then with the caretakers, you often gravitate towards people that emulate characteristics of your mother or your father, and then also the unmet needs that your mother or father or your caretaker didn't give you when you were young. So subconsciously, we seek out partners that we also subconsciously put these expectations on them to show up in the ways that our caregivers didn't.
Yeah.
So this is why
I like that.
This is why we can get very triggered when somebody does something and they're like, oh, why don't they just know what I'm thinking? Like they should know better. They know me. They should know better.
Again, it's like you expect people. So why don't you tell the person what you want? Hey, I like when you do this. Don't say, I don't like when you don't do this. I like when you do this. Communication is the first key. And we're not going to get into too much detail. In your relationship, you have a whole podcast on it. So guys, go watch it, because he has up and down in his relationship. They have a beautiful relationship, but they did work for it. You have to work like anything else. It's not going to be an easy ride. Sometimes it can, but you have to work, and they both read, they both grow. So it's a cool story. I watched a little bit of the podcast. I need to finish it, but go watch his other podcast. We'll give the name at the end, but he talks about like the ups and downs that they had in the relationship, and how now they're very like committed and happy together, and they found like a middle ground of peace. Yeah,
I mean, and I'm very transparent, and we both are with our relationship, and how, you know, we're very public online, and we don't try to project this image of perfect couple goals. Like this, it's a fucking lie. It's an illusion that everybody doesn't have problems regardless of how much success or fame they may have. Like we're two imperfect people trying to figure it out just like everybody else. But a relationship can be a really great container for growth and healing, because if you're both committed towards taking responsibility for how you show up in a relationship, for understanding your partner, and for understanding what things that they need from you that they didn't get from when they were a kid, it just helps you understand them so much better. So it's a place to actually reconcile and heal those patterns, so where you don't repeat them. Because if you say, this relationship's getting uncomfortable, it's getting hard, after you've tried to communicate and stuff, you're just going to find another partner that will eventually
has to teach you this.
You just relive it in a new way with a new person, and you never really solve or heal the pattern. So again, I'm not saying to stay in a relationship forever.
Yeah, that's toxic. But if you know that you're both good and growing and going to the same way, and I don't know, like some of you might believe in astrology and stuff like that, but I'm a Leo, so I'm a pure fire sign. Bianca is, so I know her side. It's hard for us. Like it's hard for a water sign to be, because water sign are very emotional normally. Fire sign, we're very like, we say things very straight up and blunt, and then sometimes it hurt the water sign. I had girls that were water, and they were crying a lot of like, and I'm like, I didn't say nothing, like, well, and then my mom is water, she's crying like a few times when I talk to her. I'm like, oh mom, why are you crying? Like I'm just saying things, and it's just she's always told me that I don't have the best communication skill when it comes to emotion, because fire sign, we just say things how we are, and we expect people to understand. So Bianca is probably like that. I don't know her by like that much, but you have to understand like that every person has a different approach and communication skill and how they want to be told stuff. So why don't you tell your partner, hey, I'd like if you tell me if you communicate like that to me.
Yeah, I mean that's huge.
It's a big part.
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay, let's go into a cool story that you thought a failure was a failure, because you know I talked about life is gonna kind of give you something, but then it's gonna test you to see if you're ready. What's a failure that became something that you were like, wow, I'm so happy that this shit happened?
This is a good question, because I've like, not to say that I haven't had like failures in my life, and I'm trying to think of a really big one. I've been really blessed to be able to pursue the things that I want to do and have accomplished those things. But I would say that relationships have been my problem.
We're too.
All the other stuff, I'm very like driven, ambitious, like I get things done and
so you
successful.
had kind of a failure with Bianca, and now you're back together. So
so I would say not just Bianca, like previous relationships too, definitely. But at the time, I would think to myself, like, why isn't this working? Like, like, if sometimes it was my fault, like whether I was like unfaithful in a relationship or just couldn't open up in a relationship to really connect to the depth that my partner needed from me. And it wasn't until the last breakup that me and Bianca had, and having the time to be single and like on my own and really just take a good look at all the stuff that I was running away from and avoiding, and like do that inner work, and then come back on the other side of that to be so grateful for those experiences, because they were teaching me all along the way, but I wasn't necessarily ready to learn at that time. But I wouldn't be the person that I am today without all of the mistakes that I've made in my past. And the difference between, I would say, making or having like failures, like I don't believe in the word failure either. I think
it's more like a teaching, but it's what learning. People would call a failure. That's why I say failure. Like sometimes you fail a business and then you start another one that goes super viral, and then you're like, I thought I failed, but it's actually no. Yeah. So it depends on like the context. So if you had the ability to zoom out of your life, and you say at this point it felt like I was the lowest I've ever been, like I was, but it was the best teaching I've ever had. I was depressed, I was broke, I was whatever, single, unhappy, whatever. Like those moments shaped you to become the person that climbed out of that hole, the person that had this relentless pursuit of accomplishing the thing that you wanted, because you didn't want to feel that way again. So those things are like the springboards for your own personal growth. I feel you, because I did bankruptcy at 24. I was in the worst relationship of my life. I was also on steroids for Mr. Canada, so a little bit of play with the hormones there. I was fucked up. I can say it. I ended up this relationship, so many demons, so many shadows. That's why I've been single for 6 years. I just didn't find the right partner, but I worked on myself. I didn't pitch myself after 4 or 5 failure relationship. I was like, wait a minute. I think I'm the perfect partner, but of course I have stuff to work on. But if I keep attracting those people, and if I keep acting a certain way when they don't meet my expectation, I'm not that perfect, and I have things to work on. And if I want to attract a woman that is here, I need to be the man that is here. So like what's the common denominator of all those relationships? Is like you are. You're the common denominator of every, it's like every one of those failed relationships. And sometimes you got to do things the right way. Like I was treating them right, I was doing things, but if relationship are not working, why are you attracted to those girls that are that have those trauma or that stuff? Why are you craving? Like, what was I craving into those relationships that I wanted to stay so bad and no boundaries? Like, and no matter how good you think you are, there's always work to do, and there's also a relationship is even more work because it's 2-person. I mean, a relationship is a great mirror for you to learn more about yourself, because when you're alone and you don't have anybody to reflect back those things that trigger you or that make you feel uncomfortable, then you can't really work through those things. You need somebody else to show you those parts of yourself that are in your blind spots. So they hold up the mirror for you to see where you can work on yourself. And I think that kind of like what you were saying, like you attract somebody that meets you at your vibration. It doesn't mean that they need work and you don't. It means that you're just at that level, and you have to acknowledge that. Like you have to take responsibility always. And I think that for me, taking radical responsibility for everything in my life, not saying that it's her fault or it's my parents' fault, or it's always your fault. It's everything. If you can make that shift from a victim and blaming other people to a victor, meaning that you are the champion of your life and you create your life in every situation, then it gives you that perspective of being empowered and not being a victim to whatever happens. You're in control of your life. You are. Even the most like stuff, like your boyfriend cheat on you, it might be your fault in terms of if you decide to stay in the relationship and he cheat for a whole year and you're like, it was him. No, you decided to stay. You take the blame. you're not the one, like maybe it's not because of you cheated, maybe there's other external reason, but did you stay in the relationship? Yeah. So
and even just shifting away from blame, right? It's not her fault or my fault. It's just every relationship is co-created. It's equal in every way. So whether there's patterns that coexist with relationships and you play your part in those patterns. So if again, like it's hard to say who's in fault there.
Yeah, because there's no fault. Just own what you did.
Yeah.
And just learn and grow from it. And if it doesn't work with the person or anything in your life, just if at work it's not working, if you don't like it, it might not be your fault. It might be your fault, but own it. Like, what can you do to make it better?
Yeah.
What would be your advice to your younger self, or like any person that listen, if you have one advice that you like, this would change your life?
That's so funny. I literally answered this question on my question before you came.
Let's go. You're ready for this then?
Yeah, I was like ready for it. But I think this question in itself is a bit paradoxical, because if I were to myself right now go back and meet my 20-year-old self and say, hey, do this, do that, do this, my younger self would have been like it would have went in.
Shut up, bro.
It would have went in one ear and out the other, because I was so logical. I was so in my head and I was so analytical of everything that I thought I was smart enough to be able to figure everything out on my own.
Yeah.
And what that happened was it was an imbalance of listening too much in here and not enough here. So if I were to give myself any advice, it would be to stop being so analytical, and for every now and then, like, drop in to what I'm feeling, and listen to what my gut's telling me, to listen to what my intuition is telling me, and then use my logical brain to kind of make the best decision, where it's coming from a more heart-centered place.
Totally. I love that.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what I would tell my younger self to, like, be more like mindful, like spirituality, go deeper and listen to that feeling, because it's never wrong. And every time I didn't, like you said, every time you go here instead of here, that's what happened. Like, you make the choice. I wouldn't want to change my life, because neither do you, because that's what makes us the person we are right now. But if we could give advice, it would be to don't be too much in your ego, and think with your heart, and don't let anybody tell you anything. Your heart. And if you feel that and you think people are gonna laugh or anything, let them do. We don't care about those people. It's all about inside how it's gonna make you feel.
And just another really powerful shift that's allowed me in my journey is to imagine everything, every single event in your life that's ever happened to you. Imagine that it is perfect, that it's exactly what needed to happen. There is no right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's exactly what some bigger
consciousness
had in store for you, for your highest.
It's a teaching.
For your highest growth. So you had to go through this in order to be where you are today.
And now you teach so many people because of all that knowledge and learning. So that,
and all the pain and all the mistakes and all the things that were very painful in my life.
Yeah.
I embrace them as like that was perfect.
Yeah.
The way it happened.
Same thing. It makes me the coach that I am, and I can help people, because I can be like, I fucking had this too. This happened to me in this relationship, and I got cheated on, and this happened, and it's just living those moments makes you understand, and you can relate to those people that are actually in those trauma right now and hurt.
And understand too that it doesn't make it any less painful. And I'm not invalidating anybody's pain and that they've been through, but if you can work through that pain and not have to suffer from it, because pain is inevitable. Like, life is full of pain. It's
a choice.
It's a part of life.
It's like,
but suffering
happen.
Suffering is a choice, and suffering is the mental anguish that you put onto pain.
Exactly.
So again, just try to let go of some of those stories.
Don't let the energy get stuck. It's okay to feel it. You acknowledge, oh shit, this is painful. Let go of it, because that's what creates a lot of disease, guys. Like, when you hold on to those emotions, and like when he was saying that he's journaling in the morning, and then he feels like, oh, this emotion has been stuck, and then you might not realize, but fuck, your back is tight too, and then your traps are very like tighter, and I don't know, it could be maybe this emotion that is like very pushing and wants to get out, but you don't let go. So that's how people end up with cancer and all those diseases. It's all because they don't release it. They keep
Yeah.
this anger and all those emotions for years. So regarding like business, what's your best time management advice for people? Because you're very successful, you manage multiple business, you have a solid morning routine. What's your best other time management?
So this might be a little backwards for some, because I feel like we've been sold this idea of like hustle, grind. This like kind of Gary Vee mentality where it's like very much like if
Tony
you're not
Robbins,
working
yeah,
23 hours a day, then you're missing out. And I used to subscribe to that mentality too.
Mm-hmm.
And it quickly led to burnout. And for me now, my time management is very much dedicated to making sure that my cup is full first and foremost, because I know that whenever I feel the best, I do my best work.
Yeah.
I'm the best leader that I can be. I'm the best influence in my company or influence online.
Yeah.
So
I can
make the best decisions. And when I'm low on just, I have all of these energy leakages and not really dedicating time to myself, then that's when things start to break down.
I love it. I made a post a week ago about that.
Did you?
Yeah, on Instagram, like fuck. I said, let me find it. It's yeah, I always hear work hard, which I do agree, but I align more with manifest the life and put the work to align. Yeah. So for me, I said that fifth dimension doesn't have time, guys. Like if you don't feel the best, you're not gonna attract what's the best, and that's exactly the same conclusion I had. There's so much of that work hard, like 17 hours a day. But like now Gary Vee is kind of shifting is talking to. He's like, guys, don't forget to sleep. He realized that people catch a little bit of the wrong stuff because he still has, like, people still have time with their family, they still take care of their health, they still do everything. But yeah, they do hustle for what they want, but don't forget yourself and get lost in the process for all that money, because you have money, I have money, and once you get it, you're like, that's it. Like, okay, guys, that you make 10,000 a month, 50,000, 100,000, it's not gonna change your happiness. Once you can fulfill your first needs, which is food, money, roof, and all that stuff, like the basic, the rest, you're gonna buy a nicer car, a nicer house, a nicer camera. But if you can already afford the basic, it's like you're not gonna be happier that much with it. Yes, of course, you want the freedom and what comes with it, but not at the risk of your mental health and not feeling your best version.
Yeah, and I also just want to acknowledge like our privilege, right? We're like white men that have access, and our society is really suited for us to succeed. So I'm not trying to say that like anybody that's out there that's working hard should stop working hard and just go sit and meditate. I'm just saying that whatever that looks like for you, whatever time you can dedicate towards making sure that your cup is filled up and that you feel good and focus on that good, then that overflows into every other thing that you're doing, whether it's the relationships, whether it is your career, whether it's your creativity, whatever that looks like for you. So just try to separate some time. Just
take some time for yourself.
Take
some time for yourself. Yeah.
So that was one thing that I had to learn how to do, because I always had productivity guilt. If I wasn't working or didn't accomplish all these things, then I would feel guilty about like comparing myself to other people and saying, oh, well, they're at my age and they've accomplished so much, then I should
especially with social media. This is a very, very, follow the account that inspire you, but never compare. Like, it's not because at 32 years old, he's a millionaire, is doing this, that you should be there. Like, Grant Cardone was broke until 40 and something. In his 30, he was in prison. Now he worth 500 million. Like, there's never too late. When you find what you really want to do and you put time and effort, life is going to bring you way faster than you think. There's no like, it's a shortage. Like, it's going to quantum leap. What was the last thing I wanted to ask you? Yeah, the last two questions would be your best investment this year. Well, 2021.
This year, I was going to say it was 2020.
In the last 365 days.
In the last 365 days was therapy.
Like with a coach, right?
So I had a coach as well, but therapy was my best investment for sure.
But with with someone.
Yeah.
Like
like therapy with a certified therapist that worked with
relationship or personal one.
Personal. I had both actually. I had a relationship therapist, a couples therapist, and a personal therapist. But the personal therapist really helped work through a lot of those things that we were talking about earlier, a lot of those traumas that exist somewhere in our body that affect us and influence our decisions and how we feel and how we show up. And first becoming aware of them and then working through them, because once I did that, then again, that overflowed into my relationships. It overflowed into me being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It overflowed into my content. It overflowed into me actually taking the time to myself. Yeah. And not burning myself out, which I'm also a perfectionist or a recovering. See, this is what I said. I said I am a perfectionist. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist, because I don't identify with being a perfectionist anymore.
I love that. Yeah.
So I am working on making everything. I'm making more mistakes, on owning them and humanizing myself to not have to perform at this incredibly unrealistic level.
Yeah.
And therapy helped me realize that. And
I love that.
There's different accesses to therapy. They have different organizations that make therapy affordable for anybody that has low income. If you can't afford it, I think it's a great investment.
Yeah, there's even people, you can use a depression line because they're free and it's still a therapist, and you can still work through all that shadows. And then guys, it's important to invest in yourself and don't consider yourself fucked up because you use therapists or life coach or people that are going to coach you in your life. Like, it's normal. The best people in the world, and actually the people that really care about themselves, it's good to have an external opinion and talk with someone and be like, oh, I didn't see it like that. Or maybe I didn't want to see it like that.
And somebody that's licensed, and that's somebody that has the experience of like your neurochemistry and what happens, and they can also explain things to you in a way to where you don't feel shameful or guilty about the way that you're acting or the way that you're thinking. And also just know that just be careful who you seek counsel from, because our most trusted people that we normally seek counsel from, they may have our best interest at heart, but they can't always project their own bias onto the advice that they give you. So you want somebody that's unbiased. You want somebody that can reflect back to you the parts of yourself that you need to recognize without somebody else telling you what you should or shouldn't do, but just giving you a space to allow you to make those realizations for yourself.
I like that. Yeah. That's good. And we're going to end the podcast with what's your favorite mantra or your phrase that you live your life by?
All right. I've got a few ones that are coming to my mind. Recently, it was the one that I told you, fully committed, totally unattached. That one's one. And then my second one is slipping up is different than giving up. So we all make mistakes. If you're listening to this podcast and you want to create a new habit, remember that you don't have to be perfect. You can slip up. You're inevitably going to make mistakes, but stay committed. Don't give up. Just try not to make that same mistake 2 times in a row. So if you can keep that streak going, if you break the streak, that's totally fine. But just try not to break it 2 days in a row. Yeah.
It's okay to cheat on your diet. It's okay to, not on your girl, on your diet, I said. And do some mistake in business or lose money or be greedy if you trade or do things. It's okay. That's where you learn, and just don't abuse the mistake. And it's not because you slip that it's over. Just get back and do what it has to be done.
It's what you do most consistently that matters the most. So awesome. Like you said, one unhealthy meal isn't going to make you fat. One healthy meal isn't going to make you fit.
Yeah,
it's what you do every single day that matters the most.
I like that. So a little recap where they can find you, what exactly, so you offer coaching. It's on your website or?
Yeah. So my coaching business is just veganfitness.com. So if anybody's looking to transition to a plant-based diet, or if you're already plant-based and you're looking to optimize your diet based off of your fitness goals, I got programs. And then I also have a supplement company called Veg Nutrition, where we offer
really good,
really clean, organic,
the protein. It's nice.
Yeah, plant-based supplements. We got pre-workout, creatine, all that stuff. And then What else? My
Your
podcast.
social media.
Yeah, my social media. You can just follow me at Nimai Delgado on everything. And then I also have a podcast similar to
What's the name
Mike's.
of the podcast?
It's just called Nimai Delgado Podcast.
Amazing.
Real creative.
That's okay. They know where to find you. Well, thanks a lot for joining me for the
man.
podcast, guys. I hope you learn. He's a true example. Very similar path to me, like bodybuilding, lifestyle, fitness became meditation with business and stuff. So I can relate to a lot of things that happened to him, and I was really pleased. I hope you liked it. I'll see you in another episode.
See you guys.